where did you get your name, Raider? How did that come about again?
When I was born, they really didn't know what my name was going to be. And my grandpa saw a bug spray can and it said Raid on it.
The Raid can?
The Raid can. Then my dad stepped in. He's like, Raider. We're naming Raider. He's from Laie. He went to
Coco High School, right?
He's diehard.
Fresh off
Raider
the
for
wall.
life. Once that idea popped into my grandpa's head, Raider was the name and they didn't look back ever since.
And your mom
then.
didn't have any dispute to that? It was just...
I didn't really ask her, but I'm assuming no, because I can't imagine my mom ever naming me Raider.
Yeah.
We choose to incorporate the Lord in everything that we do. We then seem to be perceived as people who are better than others. People think that because we're on the team and we do these Christ-like attributes and pray, that then we expect to win more. We don't believe we're gonna win because we have God on our side. We just believe that the true principles that we try to live behind sets us up for success, not necessarily always winning. If there was one thing that you could guarantee our fans, what is one thing that you would say to those people who are sacrificing for us?
I promise you that the people who are on the team and who are contributing will give 100% effort. Whether or not someone messes up, whether or not someone misses a tackle or misses a sack or something, every player on that field earned the right to be there, and every player is going to give 100%.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back again to another episode of Inside the Y. I'm Hinckley Ropati, your host.
And I'm Keanu Tanuvasa, your co-host. And today we're blessed with another interview. We have here sitting with us safety number 3, Raider Damuni. Raider,
Yes, sir.
how you
Yes,
doing,
sir.
man?
Doing good.
Appreciate you for coming on, brother.
Yes, sir. We're happy. Raider, obviously, for those of you who don't know, is one of our safeties, one of our heavily contributing safeties.
Star player right here.
Number 3 on the field. I said that about Chase, but maybe not in the fans' heart. He's number 1. He's more so in my heart, number 1. You know,
Ooh.
my favorite player on the field.
I like it.
It's nice to be on the field with Raider. We have a deep connection. We've known each other for a long time, so we're excited to dive into Raider's interview today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I guess just to start us off, Raider, I just found out from, I think, an interview you did earlier that you're not named after the Oakland Raiders.
No.
Okay, so I thought you were named after the Oakland Raiders. Because aren't you an Oakland Raider fan, right?
I am. Yeah, I was.
You're a
another
big
Las
time-
Vegas Raiders fan, but yeah, I love
that's
the
right.
Raiders.
That's right.
I love
Yeah,
the Raiders.
Las Vegas.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So where did you get your name, Raider? How did that come about again?
So when I was born, they really didn't know what my name was going to be.
Okay.
And this is going to be funny. I don't know if I went into this much detail with the other people, but my grandpa was there, my dad was there, obviously my mom was there, but they were trying to decide on like what to name me.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandpa saw a bug spray can and it said Raid on it.
The Raid can?
The Raid can. And then once they saw that, then my dad stepped in. He's like, Raider, we're naming Raider. Because you know my dad, he's from Laie. He went to
Coco High School, right?
He's diehard. Fresh off the
Raider
wall.
for life.
And so
No way.
once that idea popped into my grandpa's head, Raider was the name, and they didn't look back ever since.
And your mom
then.
didn't have any dispute to that? It was just...
I didn't really ask her, but I'm assuming no, because I can't imagine my mom ever naming me Raider.
Yeah.
So you're a mix between the Raid can that kills bugs and a Red Raider in Hawaii.
Yep.
I love it, bro.
That's one hell of a combination right there.
That is, man. That's freaking crazy. Wait, so you mentioned, so you grew up where in Maui, correct?
Yep.
That's where you grew up. But then before before BYU, you went to high school at Timpview.
Timpview,
So
yep.
when did you move to Utah?
So I finished my 7th grade year in Hawaii, and then I moved to Utah. I did 8th grade up here, and then from then on, I stayed up here in Utah.
Okay.
So I think about, what was it, like 2016, 2017, around there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So 8th grade, you moved to Utah, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So wait. So at one point did you? Because I remember seeing that you were a huge Arkansas fan.
Yeah.
Like growing up, right?
Yeah.
And so how did that come to be? Like.
So my uncle, Jovesa's dad on the team, and Levani, their dad was working at the University of Arkansas, and he was on staff over there when I was young and I was growing up.
Yeah.
And so when I was living in Hawaii, I mean, you cheer on Hawaii and you cheer on BYU, but I didn't really have anyone else that I was cheering for. And knowing that my uncle them were at Arkansas, I always was a diehard, like, oh, let's go. I'm cheering for those guys. I would see them on TV and stuff. And so from then on, I loved Arkansas. And that's what I like growing up. I cheered for Arkansas and BYU, those two teams. And I knew like every single
Yeah.
player on the team. I knew all the ins and outs. My uncle would get me signed footballs from the players on the team at the time, and so that's how it started.
Heck yeah, that's dope, bro. Because you have a lot of ties. I think you mentioned this earlier. Raider did a day in the life not too long ago. I don't know if anybody watched that, but that was one of the few day in the lives that I watched complete from start to end, bro. And I was dying, man. And it was hilarious to see, you know, kind of what you doing behind the scenes and things like of that sort. But what I was getting to is so basically what I like to do before coming into the podcast, I like to just look up the person, just Google them and just see what pops up, right? And I didn't know this about you, Raider. Like I knew you were great, you know what I mean, high school player, athlete, but you have some accolades behind your name and you know your career in high school. 3-time All Region, All State, was a Max Prep All State, back-to-back state champion, crazy accolades, and then by the end of his senior year, was like the 41th or like ranked recruit in the country, which is crazy, man. And then to the cream, you know, to end it all off, he was committed to BYU in 8th grade before, you know, over schools like Oregon State, Wisconsin, some pretty big time programs, man. So I guess that what I'm leading into is why did you decide for BYU? You know, obviously the ties and things of that sort, but what ultimately was the reason why you were always BYU this and BYU that? Because you made the decision as an 8th grader, which at that time, bro, I wasn't even worried about, you know, what I was going to play for. So
Yeah. I think, like you said, having ties here at BYU, my dad played here at BYU. It's always been a dream of mine to follow in his footsteps, play at BYU. But then also just every other aspect of being at BYU, you know, playing for Coach Kalani, he's the one who recruited me from the start to the finish. And everything that he stood for is something that I wanted in my life and wanted in playing college football. And I think that's what played a huge role in that decision, you know, because when I won't lie, when other schools came in and started offering me more opportunities to play at other places, I definitely entertained that idea because when I made that decision to commit at BYU, I was so young and I didn't really understand what the offer was. I was just moving in from Hawaii. Coach Kalani, T. Ofa'engawe was at one of our basketball games because his nephew played on our team, and that's kind of how they started recruiting me. But I didn't really understand the recruiting process and like what an offer meant, like what does it mean to commit. And so when the time came, I really started to decide, like, man, like where do I want to be? And all the values at BYU is where it aligned, and I get to play big time football. You know, I get to play against some of the best teams in America and the country. And so that was really appealing to me. But also the fact that BYU brought my family up from Hawaii, you know, because like growing up, I mentioned this in somewhere else, but like my dad worked 3 jobs. My mom was a school teacher. We were always with my mom. And so like it wasn't hard. It was no way hard, but like my dad was working a lot and, you know, it's expensive to live in Hawaii. And so BYU gave us that opportunity to come up to here to Utah. And I feel like I'm just like forever in debt to BYU, and I wanted to play for BYU. So yeah.
I love that. I think, you know, that's like such a cool thing to recognize and to understand that we kind of have our own journeys to BYU, you know? And for you, a big part of that connection was that family aspect. But more than that, it was the relationships that you had created along the way of even from a young age. You hadn't recognized the full capacity of what you were committing to, but you at least knew the genuineness behind the people of T. Ofa'engawe, of Coach Kalani. And that's something, you know, for me that I can connect to is, you know, coming out of the portal and joining BYU, that real genuineness of people, care, and like teammates, like the boys that were reaching out to me, like that's something that BYU carries very heavily, something that I admire and I enjoy every day now being down here. So I guess a question that I would have that I want, you know, I think a lot of fans wonder is the transfer portal is such a big thing in today's time, right? And for someone of your status, opportunity, you know, years that you have, it would be easy to go and to receive more money or something potentially elsewhere. So more than just choosing to come to BYU, what keeps you at BYU? What are the things that you walk around daily that maybe the people don't see or that they do see and you're like, man, this is just defined who I want to be and what I want to build my life around?
Yeah, I love that. I think it starts off with like just the way we do things at BYU. You know, every single meeting we do starts with a prayer, you know, and everything is faith-based. And so when you're a part of the LDS, us as members of the church, and you get to play the top end football, but then you also get that aspect of when you're going to class, when you're at football, when you're at meetings, like you're still growing in your faith, And I think that's something that keeps me there. And like you mentioned, like a lot of people have the opportunity to just, if they want more money, they can go chase it.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I think of it too is like these people were the first people to take a chance on me, and they never wavered from that. But also football is going to end one day. And I feel like BYU puts me in the position, like off the field as well, to be successful. And, whether we get paid or you don't get paid, you go somewhere else and you don't get paid, you get paid. I feel like the relationships that you can build at BYU outweighs the amount of money that you can make for a couple of years. And so that's something that I really think about, going and why I truly love being here at BYU.
Yeah. Man, I love that. I want to touch on one thing really quick, because it's something that I heard growing up. It's something that I knew when I was at the University of Utah. And it's something that still is out there that I want to touch on. And then I want to hear your thoughts and maybe yours as well, because we're all on the team. And it's sometimes there's this hate around BYU football, right? You touched on it, because we choose to incorporate the Lord in everything that we do. And so the hate that comes with that is we then seem to be perceived as people who are better than others, that we believe that we're somehow better because we incorporate the Lord. Or even in some cases, people think that because we're on the team and we do these Christ-like attributes and pray and try to incorporate him more than in other college football teams, that then we expect to win more, that we believe that because we're potentially saying, this is the outside perceivement, is that we're better because we're keeping these standards that other teams aren't keeping, so we have to win. We have to do this. And I don't think that that's it at all. I think it's the eternal principles, the eternal ways that God has directed this earth to be, is to acknowledge him and to work hard and to have faith. And these principles are applied all across the world, right? You talked about off the field, it blesses you in your relationship, in your afterlife of football, right? When you finish playing, in the way that you interact with your nieces and nephews and your cousins, all of these things are impacted by the principles and standards that we choose to live. It doesn't dictate that we believe we're better, and it doesn't dictate belief that we think because we do this, well, God demands that we're going to win. We don't believe we're going to win because we have God on our side, because the truth is God will use wins and losses to bring about his business. But we just believe that the true principles that we try to live behind, the gospel, sets us up for success, not necessarily always winning. So that's kind of like a rant that I had to get out that a lot of people have. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I want to know your thoughts, and then Hinckley can touch on it after you share something.
No, yeah, exactly that. Because you get that like everywhere you go, like, oh, BYU, they think they're holier than everybody. But at the end of the day, like you mentioned, if God cared about us being national champions, he would make us national champions right now. But I think there's a bigger role and a bigger mission that BYU has for us. They want us to be successful on the field, and they want us, that's in our control. We can work hard every day. We can do what we're supposed to do. We can study film. We can study the playbook. And if we do all those things, then, God is going to, reward us for working hard. But if he wanted us to just win, then he would just give it to us, which I don't think he wants. He wants us to use the platform that we have as athletes at BYU, at his university, to share the message of Jesus Christ no matter where we go. And in his eyes, that's winning, and that's winning for us too. We want to win and we're competitive. Like that's our goal. But, there's so many good things that come about for BYU, for their brand, for the church, as we go and hold ourselves to those standards. When we go to away stadiums, play against different teams, and we, like Coach Kalani mentions all the time, like coaches talk to him all the time, like, man, I'm so impressed with the way, you guys handle yourselves and how classy you guys are. And look at our leader, our coach, probably the classiest coach in the country. He's never fighting with other coaches, never getting into any of that, but he carries his way in a Christ-like manner. And I think that's the biggest thing, and the biggest role of BYU is to help others see Jesus Christ, to see the gospel through us. And what we love to do is play football, and we can play it at a high level as well.
I love that.
I love the way you put it. I think that's the whole purpose of just BYU in general, right? I mean, I think the motto of BYU is to go out and serve, right? And so it's like, for me, it comes back to that. I mean, the reason why we do everything is really to represent, not just our faith, but Jesus Christ himself. Our purpose is to invite others to see the light of Christ through the way we approach the game of football, right? And what I love about, like, not just college football, but just the sports world in general now, is that more and more, I guess, people are starting to be more expressive of their faith. And it's super cool to see, because it's something that BYU has always done. BYU's always, from the beginning, BYU's always known to be this religion school, and the way they carry themselves. But to see other universities, like I think Ohio State and other schools were starting to be more open with how they practice and how they, express their faith in God and things of that sort. I think it's an awesome thing to see. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying we've been doing this, but it's in a way, it's something that BYU has always done. Is the way they've carried themselves throughout time, and to see other big time programs do the same thing. I think it's just, for me, it's awesome to see. You know what I mean? On the horse. So, but yeah, bro, I think that's super cool. You brought that up earlier. You talked about the relationships and the things that brought you here to BYU and so forth. And for those who don't know, Jack Damuni, I mean, everybody knows who Jack Damuni is, my Uncle Jack, man. Obviously, he works with us as well. He's head of, I think he's like player public relations. Is that correct? Yep. Right. And he's such he plays a vital role in, us players being able to connect with the fans and be able to serve others and things of that sort. And I've grown to love Uncle Jack like so much, just because of not just of what he does, but just of who he is. You know what I mean? And kind of talk about, your relationship with your pops, I guess, your upbringing with your family, and how that's played a big role on, in who you are and how you approach the game of football.
Yep. I've always been like close to my dad. And so like I mentioned, I had siblings. I have 2 sisters, 1 brother, and we all grew up in Hawaii. And my brother, he liked sports and stuff, but he didn't like it to the extent that I liked it. He didn't really care for football. He played like basketball and cross country. And my dad, he was a football coach in Hawaii. And so he was a football coach. He also worked at middle school, and he worked at a luau at night. And so, and then in his off time, he would go coach. Yeah, he would go coach football. And so I was always like his little like sidekick when it came to the football stuff. I wanted to be where my dad was. I wanted to be like the water boy for the high school he coached at, for the little league he started in Maui. And so we've always been close in that aspect. And he's always been close to me, and just a great father to me as well, with advice in life and anything. But I feel like that's really where I grew my relationship with my dad, is just being that young kid, following him around everywhere. Even when we moved here, I was going to school at Centennial. I'd walk to his office every day after school and just sit there and just watch him do what he does. And I loved it, being around sports, being around football. And that was something that we really connected with from when I was young. And we just grown closer and closer. And like you said, he's a man of service. He always loves to find opportunities to serve. And so there's so many great things that he taught me growing up to be of service to other people. And so, yeah, that's
awesome, bro. Because, I mean, and then just recently too, I mean, it's not just, what he's done for us players, but things that he's doing even in, in the world of the church. I mean, right now, he just got called recently. I mean, what was that? Is this like the first Fijian ward
in Utah?
In Utah, right? Yeah. Which is a huge deal. And I mean, got called as a bishopric, and, just to have someone like that as an example to be with, what I mean? Like you said, you're his little sidekick everywhere you go. I think it's super cool. And I love at the end of your day in the life, it's just hilarious. You know what I mean? I think you had him, like, you were saying bye, and then he was like knocked out on the couch. And I don't know. I just love the relationship you have with your pops. You know what I mean? And I admire that, because, obviously I grew up in a Polynesian household, and I long for relationships like that sometimes too. You know what I mean? Just to be able to see, Polynesian, a father and son, relationship be able to thrive the way it is, and the way you guys are. It's awesome to see, and I think it's a what do you say? A testimony to just how amazing a man your father is and how he raised you guys, man. So I think that's pretty dope, bro.
It's true. It is something that I've seen and have admired as well for a long time. Another attribute that I actually like that maybe some of the fans don't get to see of Raider Damuni is, and I get caught a little bit too much in this, Raider Damuni is an instigator.
Yo.
He's like the
I
king
saw that in the
instigator.
video, bro. I saw it in the video. We're going to touch on that too.
Like, so there's just so much to Raider that you don't recognize because he's a respectable person. You know, he wants to honor and love and appreciate people, and he has the character of Christ. But he also has a little bit of the natural man that he lets flourish. And what he does is he just is a Division I instigator, you know, which is
Division I
perfect in
instigator is
football because
crazy.
you can get in the head of the opponent, but you also tend to mess with your teammates a lot, which is something that we need, and it's a lot of fun. You know, we're all laughing about it now, maybe not all the time, sometimes like yesterday in the locker room, but my guy Raider Damuni, with being an instigator, when I learned this first was, so when I was on a mission, I was initially called to Canada, and I got reassigned. I served here in Provo. I'm originally from California. So Raider was in the online MTC at the time, I believe, because we still had COVID was going on. And so we were together, we would hang out, we would go on splits, and we would go on P days, and we would play basketball at the Provo Rec Center all the time. And that's where I first saw his true colors of competition and instigation. I was challenged as an elder to keep my standards and my language clean because of the type of player that he is. But we were talking about it before the camera hopped on, and hopefully Hinckley doesn't get mad at me for stealing his question.
Oh, no, bro.
In relation to basketball, Raider Damuni is probably one of the best on the team.
Yeah, for sure.
But the fans would love to know, and I want to know, because I take some pride in this. Who's your starting five?
Starting five.
All right, let's do it this way. Who you have at the one?
At the one, I'm going to go at the one.
You're going at the one. Yeah, I was about to say, you better say yourself. Okay.
I'll put myself at the one.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know Ephraim Asiata. I put him at the two.
Oh, wow.
Ephraim Asiata is nice.
Fat Boy.
Yeah, Fat Boy's
okay.
nice.
Fat
I
Boy's
put Fat
nice.
Boy. I played with him the other week, and I was like, dang, this Fat Boy's nice.
Move.
Okay.
So I put Fat Boy at the two. The two and the three, you can put either Fat Boy or Jake Retzloff. I like Jake at the
Okay.
Jake.
He's nice.
Because I think Jake, he knows how to pass
He's a
the
good
ball. He knows how to
facilitator.
facilitate. Yeah. The four, I'll put Sani Tuala.
Sonny, that's a good big
Sonny's
man.
a
He's
big-
athletic,
big
he's short.
person to
Yeah,
guard.
big guy, yeah.
Thanks.
And then there's a lot of people I'm missing too. At the five, I'll put Nuso at the five.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
I'll put Nuso at the five. I'll put Keanu at the five. He
Okay.
has one rule though. He has to stay in the paint because he can't shoot. But
I'm a shooter. I actually could play the one too. Me and Raider can switch.
Hey, but
back and forth.
there's a lot of people that can play. Honorable mention, Faletau.
Yeah. Oh, Faletau's a baller,
Faletau's a beast.
And you usually got a lot of guys on the team that just like freak athletes.
yeah.
They can just, you know
Keys.
what I mean?
Keys,
Can bounce
Marquise
it.
too.
Oh,
I can't
Marquise,
forget
that's
Marquise.
right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I would go.
It's a fire five, dude. We could probably take the Utah men's basketball if you think about it.
Yo, of course, come on.
Speaking of men's basketball, did you guys catch the game yesterday?
Oh yeah.
Dude, that was huge.
Was that double overtime, bro? I only caught the highlights at the end because I was at the gym and I remember looking up and I just seen the highlights and it was like double OT and I was like, oh my gosh,
crazy
man, what
game,
a
bro.
game, bro.
Yeah, dude.
Crazy game.
Shout out to the men's basketball team,
They're
man.
doing well, man. They're
Can
setting
run
the
a-
path for 2025 so that when football season comes around, same thing gonna happen.
Yes,
you know
sir.
what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Heck yeah. Well, I guess that takes us into, our next question is obviously with the season that we just had, right? We talked about this with everyone. Obviously, it was a great season, but it didn't end the way we wanted to end. You know what I mean? Despite, us going out there and doing what we did to Colorado and playing, finishing on a high note and things of that sort. There's definitely a lot more things that we wanted to accomplish. There's definitely things that we, there's a lot of, in my opinion, rocks that we left unturned, right?
Yeah.
And so going into this season, we're about almost 2 weeks into spring ball. I guess this can be personally for you or for the team. What's been some things that you're excited about for this upcoming season? And from the 2 weeks of spring ball that you guys have already went through, right? What are some things that you want to, I guess, goals for not just the defense, but personally?
Yeah, I think the defense just for the defense, like we just want to be the most dominant defense in the Big 12 and obviously in the country. Like I thought we did a pretty good job last year, but it's definitely not where we want to be. We know we can be better, and we always have that attitude of wanting to be better. Personal goals, just it's a competitive game. When you go and you're playing, there's so much good safeties in our room, like, and we all have a competitive spirit, and so like everyone wants to win a starting job, you know. And towards the end of the season, I was able to start, I think, like 2 games towards the end of the season. But I know that, you know, I got to compete for that job again, and everyone's competing in the room. And so I think a goal for myself is definitely to win a starting job. And yeah, just take it from there. Yeah. And learn the defense, be able to put on, I put on some weight too, so that I could be more physically,
imposing
on other people. And so, yeah, it's definitely some of the goals that I have.
That's dope. So like, obviously I still remember when because you're going to your junior year, correct?
Yep.
And so I still remember your first year here. Your first year, you spent a lot of time obviously on special teams and was making plays, was balling. You know what I mean? And obviously that attributed to you getting more PT, right? More time on you know, in the safety role. And when you got in, I still remember the first time you got in at safety and what you did. And I don't know if you remember this. It was a home game. I'm trying to remember who you did it to, but you came down, and I remember thinking like, finally, we got a safety that can bring the freaking boom and, you know, be support in the run game. And that was something that I was super impressed by you. And it was like literally your first few reps of playing safety in the game. And then after that, it was just, I just see this continual, you know what I mean, rise in your level of play. And so, you know what I mean? And I think that's something that's, you know, I guess you got to tell people and let them know. But I guess my question is I guess, what makes you like, or what helps you get into that mentality when it comes to you like playing the game of football, right? You know, how do you prep for games? I guess is the question.
Definitely coming in every morning with Coach Hill. He holds like film sessions for us every morning, and just preparation. Like when I'm prepared for a game, feels so much more different than when you're thinking about it and like, man, what I got to do? Like, I don't know if I'm going to be assignment sound on this part. Like, what if they come out in this? But just preparing for the games the right way, you know, watching film, breaking down all the film, and then also not overdoing it. Because I think when you overdo it, you start to overthink as well. But, you know, like a goal for myself towards the end of the year, because I feel like in the beginning of the year, I was kind of overdoing that, like over preparing and thinking about too many different scenarios of what could happen when really it wouldn't happen. And just doing that, like trusting your ability to make plays, trusting your instinct comes through preparation and comes through the right preparation with Coach Hill and with your teammates. And so being prepared definitely helps me to feel confident, and then also to just let loose during the game. When I'm in the game, have fun, jump around a little bit. I feel like that's something that's important, stay loose and, you know, be vocal. And that's something that really helps you to or helps me personally to play free.
Just really go out there and be that raid bug spray to the offensive players, huh? Just blasting them off the field right there, man. Red Raiders. I love that, man. It's been fun. For those that don't know, I mean, you know, like joining the team and being on the defense, we started spring ball, right? We're on day, I think practice yesterday was practice 4 or something, and the defense looks well. The offense is looking great, but it's just a very competitive opportunity, you know, and a blessing to have, you know, for me, someone behind me like Raider that is vocal, that's loud, that enjoys to feel when when the ball gets past us for some reason, which it should rarely happen. But when it does, Raider's able to be there, like you said. So, no, I'm excited for the defense. And I think, you know, with the way that the team is going and the scheme that we have, we're definitely moving in that right direction.
Yeah. You talked about balance earlier, and you talked about how like important it is to not you talked about how important it is to not overthink things, right? And I think that's something that we all as football players, especially playing at this level, have learned that it's super important when it comes to prep, you know, game prepping, right? Or anything that we do, even in practice, right? Yep. It can get to the point where you can overthink things and overcomplicate things, and not just in football, but in life as well. So I guess the question is like, what does Raider Damuni do to balance things out, right? I mean, you know what I mean? It can't always be about football. You know what I mean? Maybe it is for you, but like I've learned, you know what I mean? I can't, because I used to be the same way. My first couple of years here, it was just like everything I had to do was like, I gotta get better. You know what I mean? But then I started to realizing I wasn't playing as good. You know what I mean? And the biggest thing is because you start to overcomplicate things. You start to overthink, and now you're thinking when you're supposed to just be doing, right? It's something that we've been playing our entire life since we were young. You know what I mean? And so, so that's the question is kind of how does Raider Damuni kind of find balance, find tranquility, I guess, in the midst of everything that you got going on?
Yeah, I think because a lot of people tend to forget, like, we have a life outside of football as well. And so, like, I never mentioned this, but I'm married. Shout out to my wife. I know she was waiting for that one. But yeah, I'm married, and you know, we got married last July. Yeah. But I think just balancing that aspect of life too. You know, when I'm spending time with her, when I'm there for my nephews, Logan's son and Salai's son, and doing all those other things, making sure I'm putting time to the side for those things as well, which is hard because I think at times you do come home and you're just exhausted sometimes. And it's hard to really just like want to do things and want to go out and want to do all these other things. But I've noticed when you balance your life with things that are important, like church callings, you're taking care of your wife, you know, doing things like that, and also putting in work on the football field. When you balance everything together, it's a time for you to take your mind off of the game, take your mind and just kind of be in your happy place with your family. And I think that's something that helps me a lot. It's just spending time with the ones I love during the week and getting my mind off of things, and then just going out Friday, Saturdays, ready to go. Yeah.
No, I love that, bro. I think that reminds me of like one of my favorite, probably best piece of advice that I've gotten from one of my teammates my first year here. And it was just be where your feet are at. You know what I mean? So like when I'm here, when you're at the facilities and it's football and it's practice, it's all that. Nothing else matters, right? And the same thing when you get home and it's time to be with your wife, like that's all that should matter. And she should be able to feel that way. You know what I mean? And the same thing when you're with your family time or when you're in school, like that's how it should be. And I think that's been the biggest thing that's helped me from my first year here to now is really that just being where you're at, you know what I mean? And then being in the moment, enjoy those moments, because like people say, man, like when people are like what we always talk about is football is not everything to us. You know what I mean? There's so much in our lives. It's not the biggest priority, but it definitely is up there, right? And so just being able to find that balance it's in my opinion, is one of an underrated skill, I think that we all need to do. And so I love that answer, bro.
Just to go along with that too, like you look at the way what our coaches preach to us, that's also what sets us apart. You know, like go home, be a good husband, be a good father. Like for our fall camps, we're out by like 6 o'clock, where most universities they're at the facility, you're at the facility till like 10 p.m.
9, 10 o'clock.
But like the coaches, they preach to you, be a good father, be a good husband, go take care of your wife, go take care of your girlfriend. Yeah. You know, those are all things that they know is important, and they wouldn't be preaching that to us if they think it was going to stop us from being great football players. And so, like you said, being where your feet are, doing those things when you're at home, and then coming to football and giving it your all, really helps.
Yeah. I love that about our team, bro. Like I do. The family oriented, like, because like that stems from the gospel, obviously, right? Yeah. And then to be able to have coaches who implement that in the program and in the way we do everything, right? Like I think that's super awesome, because like even after games, I think we talked about it before, when we lose, what's that advice that Kalani always tells us when we lose, right? Like, don't let that change who we are. You know what I mean? Go back out there, put a smile on your face, and say hi to your family, hug your families, love them, right? Don't let that affect your home life. And I think that's such an awesome message. You know?
Yeah. I think the nice thing of that principle is they allow us to be an agent to ourselves. You know, some people will look at that and be like, 6 o'clock, you don't care about your team being great. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to have the young guys who are still developing, who are going to go home and they're going to play video games. They might waste that time during a fall camp. But then you have the guys who consistency off the field allows for greater consistency on the field. And that was just what you were mentioning. When I'm a better husband to your wife, when I'm a better person at showing up to my church calling, then I can be better when I'm in the safety room. I can dedicate my time to my coach, to my teammates, to recognizing a trainer who's sacrificing for me as well, seeing the one person. And I think that's something that the culture is huge here, is the consistency on and off the field. It doesn't flip. Yeah. We're not just here to be great athletes. We're here to be great individuals. One of my studies, I love Dan Campbell. He's the head coach for the Detroit Lions, right? He's completely flipped that program. Like, they went from not even making a playoff game.
Super competitors for the last, 2-3 years
last 2-3 years. And so now we see where they're at. And Dan Campbell's a huge aspect to that, right? And so prior to their season, I know we talked about our upcoming season, but prior to their season, they asked him and he was like, I can't guarantee wins. I can't guarantee this, but I can guarantee that we're going to have a band of brothers that are going to fight and have grit and these types of things. So if there was one thing, this is kind of just for me, my last thing that I want to know from Raider is, if there was one thing that you could guarantee our fans, our people, the people that contribute hours of sacrifice, money to fly, to travel, to their voices to yell, they're sacrificing these moments, these time because they love us and the people that are in the uniforms. What is one thing that you would say to those people who are sacrificing for us?
That I promise you that the people who are on the team and who are contributing will give 100% effort. That's something that's preached to us and something that we believe that the coaches, they're going to put the people out there who really care and who really want to be here, who really want to fight, who really want to represent BYU and represent the fans. And so that's one thing that they can know is that, whether or not someone messes up, whether or not, someone misses a tackle or misses a sack or something, that every player on that field earned the right to be there, and every player is going to give 100%. So that's one thing that I can guarantee.
I love that. And I can back that up. I've been here for, like I said, 4 spring practices, but before that, 6 weeks of off-season training. And the attitude, the demeanor, and the culture of the team is we're sacrificing for more than ourselves. And that pulls out 100% of ourselves. It's less than just, if it was just about me when I'm out there, I can give a little slack. But we recognize, like you just said, that it's bigger than us, and that's what we're going to give to the fans. I absolutely love that.
I love that. Let's end on this question right here. I guess this can be my last question unless New has something else. But obviously you are where you are because of the decisions you've made. You know what I mean? The good decisions you made to get to where you are, right? And so I guess one thing, what I want to lead into is basically, we've asked everyone here is, what is the best advice you've gotten, that's helped you? Or you can think of it as, if you were to go back to maybe your 8th grade self, your 7th grade self, what's one piece of advice that you've learned during your time here at BYU, or just throughout the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years of your life in general, that's helped you, and that's been a huge, I guess, perspective change or something that's blessed you. What's one piece of advice you would give your 8th grade self, or you would give our listeners who are trying to pursue, the same thing that we're doing right now?
Yeah, there's a lot of good advice, but from my time being here, just through what people are teaching me is to be patient. What were we talking, what we were talking about the other day? To be patient, but also impatient at the same time without getting frustrated. And so knowing your time, knowing that there's more that you can do. Like if you're not liking the circumstances of your situation, there's more what more can I do? And always look within, there's more I can do in my life. Be impatient with the fact that you're not where you want to be, but also don't get frustrated and continue to do that. I think that's something that has helped me all my years here at BYU so far, especially with battling injuries, not being where I want to be physically, or coming home from a mission, you have to deal with, losing all the mission legs, just being patient, but understanding as long as you're getting better each and every day, putting a true effort to be better every day in everything that you do. So, yeah.
I love that, man. I love that. Being patient, but at the same time, keep that sense of urgency. What I mean? Continue to always be proactive in your goals, right? Yeah. I love that, man. And so, again, Raider, man, we appreciate you, man. Appreciate your time for coming on, and just appreciate you for coming in and dropping knowledge, man, for our viewers, man.
Awesome. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of Inside the Why. We will look forward to seeing you guys next week or when the next interview comes out. But please, again, tune in to our podcast. If you're seeing this on social media, we're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever. And as well, follow our Instagram. Go Cougs.